29. Jones steps up, tries to avoid it, buys some time. Jones uncorks, deep ball, touchdown on the ricochet. Purdy back to throw, pressure coming, steps away, looking to run, and he walks it in for the touchdown. Throw on 4th and 18, he's given time, he wants Jefferson, Kaiser, oh my goodness, Justin Jefferson. Jacobs with running room right up the middle, Jacobs is on his way, the Raiders are going to win this game. Intercepted Trayvon Diggs. Guess who? On a 2, McCaffrey right up the middle. And it's stiff arm. McCaffrey for 6.
Well, hope everybody had a great day. I mean, Isaiah, how's it going today?
Hey, Laurel, what's up, man? I was just out here rocking out to that intro, one of the best intros in all of, sports media, so that's great. But yeah, that intro just gets me all the time. But yeah, I mean, great day. I just got back from work. It was not too busy, which was kind of surprising because it's almost Christmas, but next week definitely will probably be super busy at the airport. But I mean, my Niners are the #1 seed right now after Philly lost again. Brock Purdy's the front runner for MVP. And the Niners are rolling, just crossing our fingers, hope no injuries, no major injuries coming in the nearby future. But yeah, man, this is like one of my favorite Niners teams that I've seen in a while, and everything's great right now, so definitely can't complain.
Yup, I think we're going to be in for a really good stretch, but we're going to start with our first topic is our team reports. I mean, the New England Patriots, I mean, it was a decent win for the Patriots, but I felt like that we could have done better in some facets of the game. Like we could have defended better, but, I felt like that we needed a win, and we were obviously due for one.
Yeah, my team report for the Niners is Niners beat the Seattle Seahawks at Levi Stadium on Sunday. They beat them, I believe the final score was 28-16. Brock Purdy started off slow, but then he picked it up. He threw a couple of nice deep bombs to one to Brandon Ayuk, one to Deebo Samuel, one to George Kittle. And the offense just kind of continued where they left off last week in Philly and where they've kind of gone the entire season. I feel like this is the best Niners offense that the Niners have had under Kyle Shanahan in his entire tenure in San Francisco. It's extremely explosive. They finally have a quarterback. And I was telling someone this the other day, the Niners finally have a quarterback who can sling the ball deep with accuracy. And that's something that they didn't have with Jimmy Garoppolo. That's something that they didn't have with C.J. Beathard. That's something that they didn't have with Nick Mullins. They finally have that, and that's what Niner fans have been looking for, a franchise quarterback who can sling it deep, who can elevate the offense, and that's what Purdy has done. And a lot of people are like, oh, but Brock Purdy has a lot of weapons. Brock Purdy's got Christian McCaffrey. Brock Purdy's got Kittle. Brock Purdy's got Deebo Samuel. Yeah, but before, Jimmy Garoppolo had those guys as well, and the offense was always floating at around like 23, 24 points per game. But now you look at the offense, this is a whole new offense, more explosive, way better than any offense that Kyle Shanahan has had since he's been in San Francisco. And they continue where they left off. And, they hurt the Seahawks with the deep bomb. They hurt the Seahawks running the football. McCaffrey had a 72-yard run on the first play of the game. The offense dialing it up again. A lot of big explosive plays. A lot of, key plays by Brock Purdy, by Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. And then the defense. I mean, Drew Lock, Laurel, we're going to talk about Drew Lock later on in the show. But I was more scared of Drew Lock going into this game than I was of Geno Smith had he played, because Geno Smith is already a limited quarterback and he's going to be coming in hurt. That's just easy money for the Niners. And so with Drew Lock, the reason why I'm more scared of Drew Lock is because Drew Lock can throw the deep pass. He can throw the deep bomb, and he can hurt you with the deep bomb, and he certainly did against the Niners. That's how you beat the Niners or go up against them, is you beat them. You need a quarterback that can stretch the field, and that's why I was more scared of Drew Lock. But Drew Lock played well. I give him his credit. Yeah, he had 2 turnovers, but he also had 2 really nice touchdowns on 2 really great plays. He didn't really make any stupid mistakes outside of the 2 turnovers. I think he deserves another shot as a Seahawks starter, which we'll get into later on. But yeah, he played well. Niners defense shut it down when they needed to at the end. It was a great team win, and Philly lost, so now we got the number 1 seed in the NFC. We play Arizona coming up, then we got the Ravens, which is going to be a tough game on Christmas Day, and then we play the Commanders, and then we finish the season against the Rams, and the Rams game is not a gimme. So 4 games that are going to define the Niners coming up. Hope no injuries, but now the Niners are in control for the number 1 seed, and it would be sweet if we got it, because that means that we would have a bye week. We can get players healthy. All the playoff games are going to be at Levi Stadium, which matters come playoff time. So yeah, I mean, great win by the Niners, and can't wait to see what they do against Arizona coming up. And that's not an easy place to play as well, going into Arizona, into State Farm Stadium, and playing the Arizona Cardinals. Don't expect the Cardinals to lie down for the Niners.
Well, I mean, we'll talk more about that in our game picks, but we got to talk about games of note here. We'll start with Sunday Night Football here. I mean, Dak and the Cowboys rout Jalen Hurts and the Eagles 33-13 to take the lead in the NFC East and drop the Eagles to their 2nd straight loss. I mean, I thought we were going to get a competitive football game, but I feel like Dallas is playing more hungrier. They're more determined, and I think Mike McCarthy is coaching in pressure right now.
Laurel, I tried to tell the folks out there about those Philadelphia Eagles. Tried to tell them out there, but nobody would listen to me when I kept saying that the Eagles were one of the luckiest teams in football, and I felt like the Eagles were frauds. And you look at it now, 2 games back-to-back against 2 top opponents that you need to beat to get to a potential Super Bowl in the 49ers and the Cowboys, and you get absolutely destroyed in both games against the Niners and the Dallas Cowboys. The Philadelphia Eagles showed me that they're not on par with some of these top teams in the NFC, and that they're a team that's kind of like a team that's in the mid-tier category, that they're not one of the top teams in the NFC. Their defense is not good at all right now. I think their defense right now is one of the worst rated defenses in the NFL. Their secondary cannot cover. Their linebackers are always lost. If the defensive line cannot get after the quarterback, well, then the Eagles are toast, because the opposing team's quarterbacks are just gonna rip the Eagles linebackers and their secondary apart with the short passing game and the deep passes as well. So the Eagles have been exposed the last couple of games. Jalen Hurts and that offensive line, I'm kind of glad that the refs finally called some of the BS that the Eagles have been pulling, like the false starts that Lane Johnson had been pulling that was uncalled on, for a lot of the games. This guy false starts literally like every play, and I'm so glad that he finally got called out on it. The guy got like 3 false start penalties. Landon Dickinson had a penalty. I think Jason Kelce had a penalty as well. Maliata had a couple of holds called on him. So the offensive line did not do a good job in this game, but it also was a turnovers. I mean, Philadelphia turned the football over 3 times. Dallas only turned it over once. 2 big fumbles in the red zone really, really hurt the Eagles. But it was that defense. That defense cannot stop anybody. And if the offense is getting held up, they're getting held in check, they're not going to be able to win games because that defense just can't get stopped if the defensive line can't get after the quarterback. So I won't be shocked if Drew Lock or Geno Smith rip apart that defense because they just can't cover anybody. And that's been their problem all season long. It's finally getting exposed out there. And, credit to Dallas, they played hungry. They played mad. They knew that, if we won this game, we lead the NFC East. And also, they wanted revenge for what they thought that they should have won that first game against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia, in which, they had the ball first and goal at the 7 with about 17 seconds left, but they kept going backwards and backwards and backwards. So, my biggest takeaways from this game, Eagles, I felt like were exposed as frauds. And then the Dallas Cowboys, don't be very afraid of the Dallas Cowboys into the postseason because they're hitting their stride right now, and Dak's looking like a really different quarterback. Mike McCarthy's calling a great game, and that defense, it's outstanding. So, Cowboys, what a great win by them, and the Eagles, they got to fix their defense if they want to go deep in the NFC playoffs.
Absolutely, you're right about that. But anyways, now we're going to talk about Josh Allen and the Bills going to Arrowhead and survive the Chiefs' comeback bid after Kadarius Toney's miraculous game-winning lateral touchdown got wiped away because he was offsides. And Patrick Mahomes was yelling at the officials. He was slamming his helmet down in frustration. What were your thoughts on this game here?
My thoughts on this game is the Chiefs are in trouble. They are in trouble. And let me tell you this right now, Loro. The Chiefs are unraveling as we speak because Patrick Mahomes is fed up with his offensive line. He is fed up with his wide receivers. He doesn't have a true number one receiver. We've been saying that all season long that they need to get a number one receiver, and they didn't do anything at the trade deadline to address that position. He doesn't have a receiver that he trusts. He doesn't have any weapons outside of Travis Kelce that he really trusts. It really reminds me of 2019, Tom Brady, when he had no weapons whatsoever, and that's why the Patriots stunk on offense, because Brady didn't trust some of the guys that they had because Edelman was hurt. I think Chris Hogan was hurt as well, but they just didn't have that guy that could lift the top of defenses and scare defenses. So the Chiefs are in trouble. And now the Broncos are sitting in there. This is really significant, Laurel. The Denver Broncos started 1-5. They started 0-4 this season. And now the Denver Broncos, Laurel, are only one game back of the AFC West first place. Like, it's insane how far the Chiefs have fallen and how quickly Denver has rose. It really would not shock me if the Denver Broncos stunned the Kansas City Chiefs and won that division, especially with KC just continue to lose game after game after game. They just can't do anything offensively right now against a Bills defense that is missing a lot of key players. You should shred that Buffalo Bills defense, but the Chiefs just don't have any momentum on offense. They don't have any rhythm on offense. Their defense is doing the best that they can, but offensively, they're just in a funk, and I don't know how they get out of it because it just seems like Mahomes doesn't have any trust in his receivers. His receivers are dropping passes like flies. They don't have any confidence. Like, it's just a really sad situation in Kansas City. And credit to the Bills. I mean, what a great win by Sean McDermott and co. Joe Brady, our guy, Loro, ever since he's taken over the offense, the Bills have looked so much more smoother and so much more fluid on offense. Credit to Joe Brady. He's done a great job. Josh Allen, minimized the mistakes on the football field. And that was a big win by the Buffalo Bills. And now, we thought the Bills were dead. We thought that the Bills, that they weren't going to make the playoffs, but now they have a fighting chance. And I think they're sixth right now in the AFC. So they could definitely get into the wild card. They're probably not going to catch the Dolphins, but they're definitely going to get into the wild card. And fellas, as Ben joins us, welcome Ben to the program. But now you look at it. If the playoffs started today, fellas, guess what would be one of the wild card matchups in the AFC? It would be Chiefs versus Bills at Arrowhead. I mean, that would be an insane AFC wildcard matchup because coming into the season, I think a lot of people had that matchup pegged as potentially an AFC championship showdown. So that would be such a great AFC playoff matchup in the first round if it happens. But yeah, I think the Chiefs are in trouble, Laurel, sadly. They just don't have any confidence. Mahomes doesn't have any trust in his receivers, and things are just unraveling, and Mahomes' frustration now is at a boiling point, and I would not be shocked if they lost that division to the Denver Broncos. And to touch on the penalty, look, I get Mahomes' frustration. I get why he was him and Andy Reid were blaming it on the refs, but that was the right call. I mean, he was offside. Like his foot, if you looked at it, was clearly on the line. It was I didn't think it was a controversial decision as well. I don't think Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes should be blaming the refs. I think they should be blaming it on Kadarius Toney. I mean, you got to check before Mahomes gets the snap. Like you got to check on that. Every receiver does it. So for him to not do it, I just think it's absolutely ludicrous.
Ben, what are your thoughts on this Bills and Chiefs game here?
Well, first of all, glad to be on the program as usual. It's been I feel like a while since I've been on the Extra Point, so it's glad to be back on. Lauro, congratulations on Shohei Ohtani. I know I haven't gotten the chance to congratulate you on that, so I'm happy for you. And for that monumental new thing for LA sports. After the way the Patriots have been, I bet you must be feeling very relieved about that. And Isaiah, of course, great to see you as always. In terms of this game, the way that this ended essentially has been like a lot of the Bills Chiefs games in the past, where it's came down to, final drive, usually on, one side of the ball with the Chiefs or one side with the Bills. And the Bills have been kind of on the other, end of it a lot. You look at the game against the Eagles even a couple weeks ago where, I think 2 minutes left. Gabe Davis had the touchdown, and then the Eagles went down that ensuing drive, got the game time field goal to go to overtime, and for the Eagles to win it. So for the Bills, they're just like, oh, here we go again. I believe they took the lead, and the Mahomes, of course, still Mahomes stains. He had the chance for them to go and win the game, and he was close to. And if it wasn't for an offside on an offense, which is very unusual for something like that to happen, we wouldn't be talking about a Bills win. We'd be talking about a Chiefs win. I think the way that Mahomes handled it after the game was very classless. Very unlike Mahomes, at least to me, because I've seen Mahomes as a guy where he's taken a lot of humbleness and class, and especially learning from a guy like Brady, he's been kind of somewhere I've grown to respect. But and people have obviously had the heat in the moment type things, but I think that's the way he handled that. I think it was just very poor, and you just see the exchange after the game where Josh Allen and him are kind of going back and forth to just kind of dab up, and he just didn't want to accept it. He was more worried about the way that game ended, and it's just, I get the frustration, I get it, I understand it, but if you're the quarterback, you got to own up to it, and you got to essentially say, as a team, we got to be better, hold accountability, and just not take it into the referee's hands. That's pretty much everything that they can do on their end. But Toney, that can't happen. I mean, we were going to be looking at one of the best plays potentially of the season, especially with the way that was going to end. And obviously it was in state of shock in terms of how it happened, that lateral. And I was thinking, oh man, the Chiefs are about to pull this off. And instead you go back and, had 2 plays after, and it was two incompletion passes, from the home. So, big win for the Bills. They've obviously had a little bit of a rough stretches of late, but to go into Arrowhead, a hostile environment, a place that has given them some trouble in the past, and to keep them alive, because if you're 6-7, you see with how close a lot of these teams are in the 7-6 range, and especially the AFC wildcard, the Bills needed that game. And there was a lot of people that were thinking, oh, will the Bills miss the playoffs, the last couple of weeks here. And I've been impressed with the Bills ever since Joe Brady became the OC. And I think that was something I kind of told you about a couple of weeks ago was I think Josh Allen had to unlock into the non-Superman Josh Allen, and it's essentially using his running backs a lot more, which Joe Brady's given you the chance to. James Cook had a monster game in this one. They use Latavius Murray. Obviously, Stephon Diggs didn't even have a big game, which is crazy to think. So the Bills have been able to kind of use a lot more of their offensive playmakers more and limited Josh Allen to use his legs, which I think for him, if he can use his legs a lot less than he has been, I think that just helps a lot too. So, Isaiah, as you mentioned, these two teams potentially meeting up in the AFC playoffs, I would not be shocked. This obviously kind of gave me like Oregon, Washington vibes from this year, where you got two very good quarterbacks, and it just can go back either way. So, obviously crazy game, and hopefully we get another one in the playoffs.
Well, anyways, guys, we will talk about Will Levis and the Titans stormed back from a double-digit deficit late in the fourth quarter to stun the Miami Dolphins in South Beach. I mean, I thought that the Dolphins would win this game, but you know what? This was not really the game for the Miami Dolphins. Tua just got sacked. I mean, he should have not stood there like a statue. He should have thrown the ball, but the offensive line didn't really do its part. I mean, Isaiah, I'll go with you first here. What was your takeaways on this game?
My biggest takeaway is that the Miami Dolphins are not going to go far into the playoffs because their defense is like the Philadelphia Eagles, Swiss cheese. I mean, Will Levis was basically able to get whatever he wanted up over the middle and to the sideline. Like Jalen Ramsey lost a couple of receivers a couple of times. They did a lot of misdirection, and that fooled the Miami Dolphins. I mean, you had a double-digit lead with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. I was watching the game on ESPN, and when I checked the ESPN box score, ESPN was giving them like the Dolphins a 98% chance to win. The Titans had a 2% chance to win at that point in the game with about 5 minutes left.
I mean, we lost Isaiah here. Go ahead and continue.
You guys got me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I was saying, the takeaway that I have is that I feel like the Dolphins defense is going to let them down in the playoffs. And you had a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter with about 5 minutes to go in the game. Nobody loses that game. And for the Dolphins to lose the way that they did, for Will Levis to just dominate the final two drives, just get whatever he wants, it was just kind of pathetic. And, the Dolphins, they have a really good offense, but their defense has been the main question mark. The defense has been getting lost in space. The linebackers haven't really covered well. The corners have been an issue, and they didn't really get much pass rush, especially late against Will Levis. In that game, the Dolphins need to fix their defense if they really want to go far, because right now, if you look at the teams in the AFC, I think the Chiefs, if you're giving up what you did to Will Levis, imagine what you're going to give up to Josh Allen. Imagine what you're going to give up to Patrick Mahomes. Imagine what you're going to give up to, you don't even have to have a top AFC team. You can have like Russell Wilson and the Broncos could torch that Miami Dolphins defense. And even look at the teams in the AFC. I mean in the NFC, San Francisco, Dallas, Philly, they could all torch this defense. So Miami's got to fix their defense. That's their number one problem. I know Vic Fangio is there as defensive coordinator, but it still hasn't been good at all this entire season. And fellas, about the Titans, Will Levis is a freaking dog, man. That guy, oh my gosh. Like, a lot of people were clowning on him because he had such inconsistent games the last two games before this one. But this guy proved one thing, and that is he's a winner, and he's got ice in his veins. And I was very, very impressed by what Will Levis did on Monday night against the Miami Dolphins. I mean, against a top team in South Beach, crowd is going crazy. It's loud as heck. And for you to down by double digits with 5 minutes left, you're given a 2% chance to win. For you to just not panic and do the impossible, I mean, just crazy and just remarkable what he did. The Titans have definitely found their franchise quarterback. Tennessee fans, put mayo in your coffee whenever you want, because that's your quarterback for the next 15 years. And I can't wait to see what Will Levis does moving forward. He's certainly better than Ryan Tannehill, because you better believe Ryan Tannehill is not doing what Will Levis did on Monday night. So credit to Will Levis. Dolphins, they definitely need to fix that defense. Cannot be giving up a double-digit lead with 5 minutes left in the fourth.
What about you, Steve? I mean, welcome to the program, man. What are your thoughts on this Dolphins and Titans game?
Well, first of all, speaking of the Dolphins and the Titans, man, how about the Timberwolves, man? They have been what the Dolphins should have been in the NFL, in the NBA. Ben, I came onto your show earlier this season, and I said that this Timberwolves team would be like last year's Vikings, where they would turn around a lot of those 1 to 2 possession losses and turn them into wins as they gelled with Rudy Gobert, Towns, and Anthony Edwards. And look at what has transpired. To put it in the great words of Garnett, anything is possible. And the city of Boston knows it better than I do. But, you know, the last hurdle to clear is winning in Minnesota. And the question is, can this core get it done? We'll probably discuss that later, but I just got to say, man, number one seed
Us too.
in all of the land, West and East. How sweet it is. Oh, were you going to say something, Ben?
I was going to say, we're number 1 too, so welcome to the club.
Heck yeah, man. Number one. We're honoring KG. Boston and Minnesota as 2 teams.
That's right.
How about that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is the anything is possible year. But anyway, moving on back to the NFL, I thought Isaiah spoke about it very admirably. I think Will Levis, he is the guy of the future. He's shown to have a little bit of like Josh Allen in him, maybe a little bit of Baker as well, but like the good parts. Really, really good game-winning drives by both Levis and Baker this past weekend, and also Josh Allen, impressive win over the Chiefs, although it ended in some controversy. But I would say, like Isaiah put it, I think Levis elevates this team in the future and adds a different dimension to it, because we know about Tennessee's knack for defense late in the game. We know about their way to kind of chip away at you defensively and through special teams. They're that chippy kind of Steelers-style football. What they've been missing is that boom or bust pocket passer, the guy who can kind of save and wreck the game for you at times and who can give you that extra upside. And I think they may have found their guy in Will Levis. And we'll see going forward. But, you know, with the Dolphins, they are who we thought they were. To put it in the former Cardinals coach's Dennis Allen's words, they are who we thought they were. Coming into the year, what were the criticisms about the Dolphins? They're a finesse team. They're an explosive offense. They have speed. They have all the talent to score on offense. But come January and February football, can this football club get it done consistently in the outdoor weather or even inside a dome when the game becomes more physical, when it becomes a game of inches, when the defense is able to play a little bit of bend but don't break? Can you use the physicality to overcome? And unfortunately, on that night, on Monday, it wasn't enough. And you just question. Like, I think that the Dolphins have not answered the core question of whether or not they can be a physical enough team, you know, that without the finesse at times, can they win the football game? Can they put the football game away? And we still don't have answers for that.
And we don't. I mean, what about you, Ben? What are your thoughts on this before we talk about the Giants and the Packers game?
I have 2 things. The Titans essentially found the blueprint to stop this Dolphins team. And that is essentially to make Tua and that offense throw sideline to sideline, because essentially Tua is not a mobile type quarterback. They use a lot of motion in their offense, as you guys can tell, where they put a lot of the running backs, a chain, Mostert, a lot. And, you know, that's kind of the Mike McDaniel offense. And essentially they do sweeps, where so Tua gives it to the guy to boost it to the outside in his own play. If that guy's not there, then they try to throw across the middle of the field. What do the Titans do? They essentially exploited both. They essentially are like, okay, if we're going to make you, you know, go run in the outside, we'll have guys in the outside. If we're going to make you guys throw in the middle, we're going to have guys cover the middle. So essentially, they did 2 things, I think, where a lot of defense that I'm looking at their schedule right now coming up. They're facing a lot of tough defenses down the stretch, and like Steven mentioned, that we haven't seen the Dolphins come this point in time that they could prove to us that they're real, right? And I'm not saying that they're a bad football team. They're a very good football team, but we haven't seen in the past with a team like this that they can get the job done. I mean, I'm looking at their schedule right now, guys. They're facing a lot of good defenses coming up. They got the Jets. They got Dallas. They got Baltimore, which, by the way, could be potentially for the AFC #1 seed. And then the last game is against the Bills. And yeah, the Bills defense obviously has had their, their struggles, but their offense is starting to click. So you have two AFC, you have two in-division games for the Dolphins coming up. You have a potential game for the #1 or #2 seed in Baltimore too. And then you have Dallas, who is, of course, a fantastic defense, and they're playing potentially the best football during this stretch than maybe any team right now in the league. So if you're Miami, that's a really brutal loss because obviously Titans obviously had their struggles, but you're up by 2 scores with about, I think, 2 minutes left, 2:10, 2:20 left, and Vic Fangio decided to go prevent defense, and bit to bite them because Will Levis, I was watching the other game because there's 2 scores. I'm like, all right, after I believe the Titans punt returner muffed that punt. They got the touchdown. I think the one after Will Levis had a fumble. They got Mostert had the touchdown, made it 2 scores. But you know what? As Isaiah mentioned, he has the dog in him. He's able to respond after having that fumble. He could have been like, you know what? It just hasn't been my night. You're down 2 scores in that place. It's just not meant to be. But he decided to be like, okay, I'm going to do what I can to push this football team in a position to maybe come back not only and give a chance to win, but try to win this football game. Because I think that Vic Fangio, and I know Isaiah has a lot of praise for Vic Fangio in the past, but he went prevent and it bit to bite them. And now you're seeing Dolphins fans online, saying, what in the world just happened? And I think with this tough stretch coming up, this could be a potential game that they slipped away that could come back to bite them, especially for AFC position. And they don't want to go in the playoffs as the road team because they have not shown to me that this season that they've shown to be a really good team on the road. So if they really want to find a chance to get a home playoff game, that game you look past, then they completely botched that.
Anyways, with that being said, guys, we talked about Tommy DeVito engineers a late drive. Randy Bullock hits a game-winning 37-yard field goal at the buzzer to help the Giants stun the red-hot Packers. And the New York Giants, after a bad start, I mean, they are putting themselves in position to be in the playoffs, but we don't know how that's going to roll. I mean, Steven, I don't know if you watched this game. I didn't even watch this game because I was more invested in Tua. What were your thoughts on this upset win for the Giants?
Well, I watched some of the game, and I would say that, first of all, Kirk Cousins, my quarterback, Minnesota, he did a great job of commentating with the Manning cast. You can just tell, like, quarterbacks, whether active or retired, they are a different breed when watching the game. So that was very cool to see. But I would say, this is a Giants team, and like Isaiah said, a lot of times when you get these teams that are not they just don't have that oomph or spark to them at the start of the season. And all of a sudden they get a new quarterback. There's just some added juice to the team. There's some added motivation to prove that, yeah, you know what? We are an NFL team and we do belong. And you've seen that in the Giants. I think they've really rallied and embraced the culture around DeVito. DeVito won some big games for his teams in Syracuse and Illinois. Just didn't have the big stage like a Fields or Caleb Williams to really prove himself in the long run recently. So I think like this was a great showing by him. I think obviously with the Packers, like Jordan Love, similar to like a Will Levis type, he's got a lot of the physical attributes that you want in a successful franchise quarterback, but you also have to live with some of his drawbacks. And that's kind of what this game came down to, which was like which team can make the biggest plays and commit the fewest mistakes to close out the game, and that was unfortunately not the Packers. But fortunate for the Vikings, it wasn't the Packers, so because that helps with our seeding. But that's really what I thought it came down to.
What about you, Ben and Isaiah? What were your thoughts on that stunning win for the New York Giants?
Well, guys, there's one thing. How about Tommy DeVito? This is obviously the new quarterback over in New York. As a guy that is living about an hour away from New York, Giant fans are really feeling this. Great story as of late with Tommy DeVito. I'm happy for them. I had a buddy that went to the game on Monday night, and I think he's gone to 3 this year, and he finally caught a win. So I'm happy for him. This might be an Isaiah type of bold take, but I'm going to go for it because screw it, why not? This Tommy DeVito feels like another Brock Purdy story to me. And I'm not saying specifically that he's going to be their long-term answer quarterback, but I just saw his stats personally for Tommy DeVito, and his second start against the Vegas Raiders, he had 2 interceptions. He had 1 interception the week after. In the last 3 weeks, he's thrown no interceptions. So, which means to me that he's keeping their team in the game. He's playing turnover-free football, which is good to see for a quarterback. And this season, guys, you've seen a lot of starters go down, which has been obviously very unfortunate. But we've seen some quarterbacks that have just had phenomenal, great stories. And I think that Giant fans right now, in a season that's been really rough for them, give a little bit of hope the last couple of weeks. And, they're 5-8 right now. They're, I think, a game back of the wild card, which is crazy to think. If you guys told me the Giants have a chance to maybe make the playoffs in a season like this, I probably would have told you you're nuts, but they're right there. The unfortunate news is, they have the Saints where they can go and beat the Saints. I haven't really been impressed with the Saints as of late. Derek Carr has been playing really hurt. But after they have the Eagles twice, and the Eagles obviously haven't been playing as great the last couple of weeks, but the Eagles always have the Giants number as of late. So I expect at least the Eagles to take one of those, and then the Rams. And the Rams obviously went toe-to-toe last week. They've been playing really good ball. So, they might not make the playoffs, but Tommy DeVito's been a fun story for them. Their defense is playing really well too as of late, the Giants have. Ever since the Vegas and the Dallas game where they gave up more than 30-plus points, the last 3 weeks, they've given up less than 25 points. So DeVito's obviously played turnover-free football, and their defense is playing a little bit better too. So it's good to see, and congratulations to Isaiah because it helps now the Niners get into the playoffs because the Giants won the game. So obviously that helps a little bit there. But yeah, good one for the Giants. And now they have a chance to make the playoffs. But it's been a fun story with them.
And Isaiah, what are your thoughts on this win for the Giants?
Yeah, this game proves why we love football so much because every week, every Sunday, every Thursday, every Monday, you never know what's going to happen. You think you're going to know what's going to happen, but you never know. So, it's just the unpredictability. It's always the case in the NFL. You think that this team has a big advantage over this team, but it's not the case come game day. Like coming into this game, the Green Bay Packers were the heavy favorite to win this game. They were the red hot team. They had won a bunch of games in a row. Giants, DeVito, after their bad start, nobody really believed in them. And what happens? The Giants on a freezing cold night in the Meadowlands go and upset the Green Bay Packers and shake up the playoff race. So it just shows you why we love football because of how unpredictable the NFL is. And, I think this was a brutal loss for the Packers because it really set them back a lot, losing to the Giants who coming into this game, they had only won just 4 games and they had gone off to a really bad start. And Tommy DeVito didn't really do much in this game. They're like, yeah, he was outstanding at the end of the game, but it really was Saquon Barkley. He had 20 carries, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was just ripping up the Packers defense. Jordan Love looked very uncomfortable against Don Martindale's defense when he was throwing the ball. Just a very confusing loss for the Packers. And I think that for the Packers, they have stuff they got to fix, such as, Jordan Love, got to get rid of the ball faster. And that run defense got exposed in this game.
Absolutely. So anyways, here now we talk about Browns beating up and injured and hobbling Trevor Lawrence and take down the Jags 31-17. What were your thoughts on this game, Isaiah?
My thoughts on it, and we'll probably debate this later on in the show, as it's one of our topics of the news and notes segment. Is I don't think Trevor Lawrence should have played. Trevor Lawrence, I understand why he wanted to play because it's a very critical stretch. They need as many wins as they can, and plus the Chiefs lost, the Texans lost, and also, you could have. I think the Dolphins lost as well.
Dolphins
So you
lost
could
too.
have, yeah, so you could have gained the 2 seed back. You could have potentially been in the race for the 1 seed, but I don't think he should have played. I mean, Trevor Lawrence did not look comfortable at all. He was throwing off his back foot a lot of the times. He was very uncomfortable. Credit to the Browns defense. They are really good, but Trevor Lawrence looked like a severely injured quarterback trying to gut it out there. And you saw it. He had 3 picks, I think 2 in the first half. Just wasn't comfortable at all. Couldn't really step into his throws, and when he tried to, he was wincing. The Browns defense was just after him. Like, it was just, I just don't think he should have played. I think he should have taken this week off. You're playing in Cleveland. It's a tough place to play. Let the Browns, give the Browns the victory. Let CJ Beathard play, because CJ Beathard, I was very impressed by him. He looked very good at the end of that Jaguars Bengals game. He was moving in and out of the pocket, looking very spry. He was throwing the ball in the run. He was leading them down the field to score. I mean, he looked very good. And Beathard against the Browns defense, probably not the best recipe, but definitely better than an injured Trevor Lawrence. So I don't think he should have played. I think it was a wrong decision. I will be very interested to see if Doug Peterson and the Jaguars play him this upcoming week as they play I'm trying to see right now who they play. I think the
So
Jags.
Jags play Baltimore on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, so that's not going to be good at all, because you have a defense that's they're known for getting after the quarterback. So if I'm the Jags, I'm not playing Trevor Lawrence this week, and I'll get to it more later on. But you don't want him to re-injure that ankle. You need him for the playoff time. Like, just get into the playoffs. That's all you need at this point, because you're not going to get the 1 seed. You're probably not going to get the 2 seed, and you need to win that division to hold on for your dear life. And you're just only 1 game back. So just save him for the final 2 games of the season and the playoffs.
What about you, Ben and Steven? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think what Isaiah said, I just think that it was probably not a good move for Trevor Lawrence to play.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I had the Browns winning this game. I just think that their defense specifically has done a really good job all year creating turnovers. And people can argue, Trevor Lawrence could be back or not. He felt probably okay to be back enough, right? I think that if CJ Beathard was playing, I think that the Jags looked at it in terms of, we'd rather take a 75% Trevor Lawrence than 100% CJ Beathard, because we feel like that's the best way we can win this football game. It's obviously a game where both teams are kind of right at the end right in the thick of it. And of course, next week you have the Baltimore. I think that Trevor Lawrence, he had 3 touchdowns in this one. I mean, heck, they had a chance right at the end. Despite the 3 interceptions, they had a chance to, even get the ball back, if they got the onside kick. So it wasn't like they were getting blown out. It was just a matter of they made very crucial mistakes at very crucial moments. And so I think that for the Jags, they have the Ravens coming up in Jacksonville, so I think that helps them a lot. But yeah, they just made critical mistakes, and it just came back to bite them. And guys, how about the fun Joe Flacco story? We've been talking about great stories all year. This guy was pretty much out of the league for the last couple of years, and the Browns, obviously, after Deshaun Watson is after the year, they brought on Dorian. I always mix up his last name. Finney Thompson, Dorian Thompson.
Dorian Thompson Robinson.
Thompson Robinson, thank you. I always get the last name mixed up. But he obviously went down a little bit, so they brought in Joe Flacco. We're like, this guy's old. How much is going to really give you? And of course, the game against the Rams, you're like, this kind of like, maybe it was like a fluke type of game. But you saw it against Jacksonville. Jacksonville has some playmakers on that defense. He threw for, I believe, over 250 yards. I'm like, is this the Baltimore Joe Flacco we're looking at right now? And then, of course, the Baltimore decides to play around with him. And according to Schefter, he might go back to the practice squad, which I think would be absolutely ludicrous because he's essentially giving the Browns right now the best chance to win football games. And, it sounds like Flacco really wants to stick in Cleveland. But, yeah, I mean, Joe Flacco is playing really good ball right now. And if I'm any team right now against the Browns, you cannot take this team lightly because I think Kevin Stefanski and that offense is playing really good football. Mark Cooper, Jerome Ford. Think about this, guys, too. This is without Nick Chubb. Remember Nick Chubb going down? I think everybody thought that this Brown season was going to be over because that's essentially their offense. But they were able to kind of fix around with them. Their defense has pretty much been their catalyst all season, and now they're right now in the thick of it. So give a lot of credit to the Browns. They've been finding ways to win, and they'll obviously be a really tough team to play come the stretch.
All right. And what about you, Steven? What are your thoughts on Lawrence and the Jags losing?
Yeah, I had the Browns winning this game as well, similar to Ben and Isaiah. I just thought that with Lawrence being hurt, they have more talent around the ball. I think that one thing that's missed in the what happened with Nick Chubb is that this Browns team has always been really successful in terms of developing running backs, dating all the way back to guys like even Peyton Hillis back in the day. And now, you see the emergence of Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt's always been there. I think it was always a mistake to kind of take this Browns team lightly, especially a team that's, even though they have an offensive-minded head coach, they're very much still built on a good defense, a solid defensive foundation. So I had them winning this game. I thought it was, a little bit surprising that Lawrence actually was able to play. Credit to him. He's an absolute warrior, has been that way since his Clemson days. And the last thing I'll say is this, man. The story of DTR, even though he hasn't been able to be the starter consistently, and it's been the Flacco show recently, is pretty amazing because of my wife, Helen. I'm actually a Bruins football fan, me and her. And so we've been following DTR, because it's his nickname, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, for a while. And that's why, Ben, when you were having trouble saying his name, I knew instantly who he was and how to pronounce his name, man. That guy was a beast at UCLA. I always thought he was a more athletic and capable JT Barrett. So I just love the story that he's been able to put up in the NFL, even though he's not the starter right now.
Yeah, anyways, with that being said here now, folks, we are going to talk about our Week 13 NFL Pick'em, but we will also use our news and notes as we talk here. So basically, before we make our pick on the Chargers and Raiders game here, Chargers coach Brandon Staley and GM Tom Telesco are reportedly both in hot water, and barring a miraculously turnaround, they both will be fired at season's end. And also, Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert become the latest quarterback struck by the injury bug. He will miss the remainder of the season with a broken finger. Ethan Stick will be the starting quarterback tomorrow on Thursday Night Football when the Chargers go to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders here. I mean, it's going to be a battle of backup quarterbacks where I think it's going to be such a boring game. I mean, Isaiah, anyways, here with that being said, Isaiah, I picked I'm going to pick the Chargers. I'm going to pick the Raiders to win this game just because I'm not sure about if the Chargers can come into Vegas and be ready to play, just because they're without Justin Herbert. And Keenan Allen's also out too. So the Chargers have been hit with an injury bug, even though that this team, when healthy, is a very strong and talented football team. Isaiah, I'm going to go to you here. Do you think the Chargers fire both Staley and Telesco? And then what are your thoughts on Herbert becoming the latest quarterback struck with an injury bug? And who's your pick in this game?
Yeah, let's start with Tom Telesco and Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley, not a surprise. He may be doing the worst coaching job in the NFL. I mean, this guy, defensively, you're a defensive-minded coach. How can your defense be ranked 26th in the NFL? Like, someone make that make sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. Like, I would understand, okay, if your defense was great, but your offense stunk, maybe you keep him with the Chargers for a little bit because he's doing his job. Like, he's making the defense great, like Vic Fangio did in Denver. He made the defense great. It was just the offense that was really bad. But the defense, which is your specialty, is sucking. And you're losing all these close games, not because of Justin Herbert, because your defense flat out stinks. It's obviously you that's the problem in Los Angeles, and his coaching decisions when it comes to timeouts and all that stuff. Like, it's definitely mind-boggling for sure. So I'm not surprised that he's on the hot seat. I think he definitely needs to be gone at the end of the season. And Ben and Loro and Steven, here's what's interesting. This report of Tom Telesco being on the hot seat came out of nowhere because the Chargers are not known to fire GMs. They rarely fire their GM. I think the last time they fired their GM was like 7 years ago. And a lot of people would assume that Telesco was safe, during the season. And then this report came out, and it came out about 20 minutes after Tom Curran's report was leaked that Bill Belichick or the Patriots are going to part ways with Bill Belichick. And I think it has something to do with it because the Chargers have been one of the teams that a lot of people around the NFL have been saying, keep an eye on the Chargers for Bill Belichick. And if Bill Belichick goes to another team, he's going to want GM powers. He's going to want head coach powers. So if you're the Chargers and you want Belichick, you're going to have to clean house at this point. So I think that this report of Telesco getting fired is very interesting. And I think it's a ploy to get Bill Belichick to come to Los Angeles to be the next head coach of the Chargers, because for the Chargers to not fire their GM, for them to all of a sudden, after leaking to the media, oh, our GM is safe, no way we're firing our GM, to all of a sudden have a change of heart and, week 15 into the season be like, okay, our GM's on the hot seat and barring a miraculous finish, he's going to be fired. This smells Bill Belichick to the Los Angeles Chargers and an attempt to go get Bill Belichick. And as far as Herbert, I think me, you, Loro, Ben, and Steven, we all share the same sentiment. I mean, it sucks. I mean, how many star quarterbacks have gone down this season? I mean, I've never seen such a thing like this. There was a list the other day put out by someone on Twitter. It was all the star quarterbacks that had gone down. Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert. I'm trying to name. There's a bunch of them, but Deshaun Watson, to name a few. Kirk Cousins. I mean, there's so many star quarterbacks that have gone down this season that it's like every week someone is going down. It just really sucks because Chargers, I don't think we're making the playoffs, but you never want to see Herbert, who's a very good talent, get hurt. And now with Easton Stick starting, I don't really have any belief in the Chargers. I think the Chargers honestly would be better off starting Max Duggan and seeing what he has to give in that game because he's mobile, he can run around, and he has an electric arm. So it just sucks. And wish Herbert speedy recovery, but it just sucks that he's hurt. And the last one is the pick. Chargers Raiders. Give me the Raiders to win this game. No Justin Herbert. No Keenan Allen. Who is Easton Stick going to be throwing to? Mike Williams?
He's out for the year.
He's out for the year, too. So
they got like Quentin Johnson, and he's been a total bust right now. I mean, I saw him against the Patriots. He was dropping balls left and right. Remember against the Packers? He had that crucial drop with Herbert there. I mean, essentially right now, they have a washed-up Austin Ekeler because I think that he's gone out to the year. They've been using Josh. I mean, Brandon Staley was saying that this week that Joshua Kelly is going to maybe get more reps than Austin Ekeler. The fall off on Austin Ekeler has just been absolutely critically, bit awful for them. So
definitely.
There's just a lot going there with the Chargers there. Another thing too, Isaiah, obviously the potential report about Bill Belichick, which I think, obviously for me, and lower, obviously for me specifically, would take a lot, obviously, it's crazy to think that there was an Isaiah hot take before the season that actually came true because you told me You said before the season that you would not be shocked if Bill Belichick got fired. And, I would have kind of looked at you, you're crazy, and here we are. It's potentially now fully real that, there could be a year without him. And if he went to the Chargers, think about this. He could be potentially coaching a lot more against Andy Reid to finish off his coaching career. I think that would cause a lot of fun, chaos there too.
Don't forget about
because
Sean Payton too.
Yeah.
Both
So
in the same division. Oh God.
So if I looked at it in terms of he could coach with Justin Herbert and maybe get a chance to help a team maybe go for another Super Bowl run, I think he tries to do it. I think another thing about the defense for the Chargers too, Isaiah, is they've had a lot of injuries. I mean, Joey Bosa essentially has been hurt a lot of this year. I think that if you got a good glimpse in terms of their defense healthy, I think that stat right now feels like it's pretty much overblown. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Raiders. I just think, you have backup quarterback, no playmakers, running back. Eckler is just having a terrible year. The Raiders are kind of the same thing, interim coach, backup quarterback. At least they have Devontae Adams, who you can get the football to and he can make plays. But I agree with you, Laurel. I don't think it's going to be that fun of a game. I think that, I said that Zappy and Trubisky wasn't going to be that fun of a game, and that turned out to be a good game. But I don't think that's going to be that good of a game. And I think you're going to have these two teams both searching for new head coaches at the end of the season. And one last thing before, I throw it to, either you, Steven, or Ben. You talked about Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, Sean Payton being in the same division. Now imagine Jim Harbaugh takes the Raiders job. Harbaugh, Reid, Payton, Belichick. Good Lord.
About you, Steven and Ben, you got your picks for Thursday Night Football?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Vegas. I think that this game right now, if you had Justin Herbert and a healthy Keenan Allen, I'd take the Chargers. But those obviously guys have my sending my thoughts to Justin Herbert. Obviously it's just another great quarterback alongside this very tough season that's been, with a lot of these quarterbacks, get him, Joe Burrow, not the biggest Deshaun guy, but obviously Deshaun, Trevor Lawrence, obviously a little bit there. Derek Carr, obviously, has been banged up a lot. Aaron Rodgers, of course. So you just see this whole entire league. And obviously, like I mentioned, the backups having some great stories this year, but you want to see, of course, the best of the best. And Justin Herbert, to me, is a very, very good quarterback when he is healthy. And of course, he is much watched a lot specifically. And it's essentially their coaching that kind of holds his overall potential back, because I feel like there's even more there, which is scary to think. But yeah, in this game, I'm going to go Raiders. I think it's going to be close. I'm going to go like 21-17. I think that quarterback Easton Stick has maybe a little bit of a game there. Antonio Pierce, guys, I feel like has kind of been sliding a little bit with them. You look at that game against the Vikings, it was a total snooze fest until the fourth quarter, where I think we were close to history. In terms of the last time, I don't know the last time there was a 0-0 in regulation, but it came right to about 2-3 minutes. I didn't even watch any of it, but the Vikings got that field goal, so of course it changed it up. But yeah, there won't be a lot of points in this one. I think it'd be like 21-17. Give me Vegas. Nick Mullins.
All right, and then what about you, Steven?
I'm with Ben here. Give me Vegas to win in a physical game. I'll go with 17-14. One thing about Antonio Pierce, yeah, his teams have not looked good consistently, at least offensively, but he's pitched some nice defensive battles now, and limited the Dolphins' high-flying offense to 24 points, and limited the Vikings, although not with the best quarterbacks in town right now, but still, limited them to 3 points. I don't think Easton Stick is going to be able to cook them up. Although, some fun facts about Easton Stick, I actually found out today. Today, somehow, I thought it was Thursday when I woke up, and I was like, oh, the game is about to happen. I need to put in my parlays and everything. So I did a ton of research before realizing, no, in fact, it's still Wednesday. But Easton Stick he was drafted out of North Dakota State in 2019, and in fact has only had 2 snaps with the Chargers before the situation that occurred, unfortunately, last weekend. So he's just been kind of collecting dust for the better part of 3-4 years now, and haven't heard too much about this guy, but he's finally getting his opportunity. And here's the other really interesting thing about Easton Stick, guys, is that while he was a player at North Dakota State, 4 out of 5 of the seasons, including the season in which he redshirted as a freshman, North Dakota State won a national FCS championship. And so when he actually gave the interview earlier this week, he gave an interview saying that he's accustomed to winning. He's not used to losing. He was not, in fact, blowing anyone's horn. He in college had 4 national titles, 3 of which he was the starter for, had some pretty nice stats, and now he'll give his opportunity to shine without Herbert. I just think that against this Raiders team, which is more motivated by their coach, frankly, than the Chargers by Staley, with this defense, I don't see him having a big night or a big game. And so give me the Raiders 17-14 in a grinded out physical game. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers, kept it close or were able to outright win this game. I think it is a game that can go either way. I lean about 70% Raiders at this point with the momentum of the season and losing Herbert. And then the last thing I'll say is, guys, I know there's a lot of Belichick speculation about what he's going to do after the Patriots. First of all, I think he's out of the Patriots this season for sure, barring some kind of absolute miracle where they can backdoor their way into the playoffs or get back in that conversation. I think he's 98% gone. But I also think that, Belichick, as stubborn as he is, has realized that his coaching prime is kind of up. And I don't know if he would openly head into a situation with, be it the Raiders or the Chargers. Well, he'll have to answer tough questions about how he's competing against Andy Reid. I think after this stint, which will rightfully end, I think Bill Belichick is going to kind of ride off for a bit, just like Meg Zimmer did after he got fired by the Vikings. And that's where I'm going with that prediction. But anyway, Raiders over Chargers, and, the rest is going to be history.
All right, guys. So that being said, we're talking about Vikings and Bengals here. I mean, I wish it was Joe Burrow versus Jamar versus Kirk Cousins, but I'm gonna pick the Bengals to win this game. I mean, Jake Browning has done a really good job of holding down the fort in Burrow's absence. Jamar Chase should be able to play. I mean, Steven, I'll go to you here. I mean, a quarterback switch from Josh Dobbs to Nick Mullins. What are your thoughts on that, and who do you like tomorrow?
Yeah, it's unfortunate because, I just ordered my Josh Dobbs jersey, and I told Isaiah and the others in the group that regardless of the outcome of this season or this game or the next couple games, he delivered one of the most emotional wins for my Vikings, probably since the Minneapolis Miracle, or maybe that Kirk Cousins Saints comeback win. So, a lot of sentimental value attached to this season for both the Bengals and the Vikings. A lot of changes at quarterback. But in this game, I think the Vikings coming off of an emotional road win against an AFC opponent in the Raiders, in which they grinded it out, coming off of a quarterback change. I don't know if they'll have the right game plan and the right mindset to come out and just, play physically dominant defensive and offensive football for 60 minutes. I think, everybody and their mom kind of knows that whoever came out of that Raiders or Vikings game would have kind of come away and escaped with a win that they shouldn't have had. And I think, a lot of times these NFL teams, when they come off of a game where it's an emotional victory, it's one of those historic, unprecedented things. I think it becomes hard to bounce back the next week and win the game. I think the Bengals are riding really well with Jake Browning, Washington Husky. Shout out to my dad's alma mater. And I think they get it done here. I think the Bengals win this game running away 26-17. Look, Mullins, he has experience in the Vikings system type of offense. He obviously had time playing with playing with the Niners and backing up Jimmy G, but I just don't think he's quite ready yet to lead the Vikings to a big win like this. And I think Browning, he's had a bit more time with his offense than Mullins. So I'm sticking with 26-17. And this is a Vikings team, guys, that historically, off of these emotional kind of wins, like the Buffalo road win against Josh Allen last year, like the 33-0 comeback against the Colts, they tend to come out flat the very next week. And that's what I think is going to happen in this game. I think the Vikings, they know they got away with one. They're kind of physically and mentally drained from this season so far. And, they're going to keep fighting. But I just think that coming off of such a tough game last week, it's going to be hard to come in and start fast, which you need to do against the Bengals in this receiving core, even with Jake Browning at quarterback. So give me the Bengals 26-17.
What about you, Isaiah and Ben? Who do you like in this game between the Vikings and Bengals?
Well, first of all, fellas, you're about to witness some history. I never do this, I always call them a fraud, but give me the Vikings. I think the Vikings are going to win this game. They're going to go into Cincinnati because of 4 words. I believe in Nick Mullins. 5 words, actually. Nick Mullins showed last week that when it matters the most, he can come in and clutch it out for you. I was very impressed. He was very efficient. 9 for 13, 83 yards. They're running the Shanahan offense, which he had a lot of success in. He doesn't have to do too much. Just run the football with Alexander Madison. Get the football out to your playmakers. And the thing with the Bengals is Browning has had some couple really outstanding games, but Jake Browning is still a backup. And the thing with backups is they have 1 or 2 good games, and then they have this one really absolutely horrific game that you're just like, yeah, that's why he's a backup. And I think that this is going to be the game for Browning. The Vikings defense gets after the quarterback. I was very impressed with what they did against Aiden O'Connell. They look like a completely different defense. And Lou Anarumo's defenses have been really victimized by short, intermediate passes, and that's what Nick Mullins excels at. So I think that the Vikings, even though I hate saying this prediction, I'm going to have to throw up in a bag later on. Nick Mullins goes into Cincinnati and outduels Jake Browning and the Bengals, and the Vikings get a critical win because they know it's critical time right now. Playoffs, the playoff race is definitely in full swing. But I think the Vikings win. I think they win in a close one. I'm gonna go like 27-24 on a walk-off game-winning field goal.
All right, let's go. I hope the Vikings. I hope you're right, Isaiah.
So
this is gonna be a TikTok moment.
Now we go to Ben here. Who do you like between the Vikings and the Bengals?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it sucks that, we don't get Kirk Cousins and Burrow, but this Saturday slate, guys, is actually going to be fairly interesting. You have 2 7-6 games in the Steelers Colts. You have this game, 2 7-6 teams, and you have the Broncos and the Lions to finish it off. So it should be a really interesting Saturday slate of games. But I'm going to go with the Bengals here. I think it's going to be close. The Vikings, obviously, I'm really interested to see the status of Justin Jefferson. He left last game against the Raiders, so he obviously might be a little bit banged up. And Jake Browning, guys, to me, he has a little bit in him. I think that he kind of slowed off a little bit after Burrow got hurt. But I think he's really starting to embrace the role in terms of him being the quarterback for the rest of the season. And he's just playing really, really good ball. He's using his guys, to the max. Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon. He's using the tight ends, Tanner Hudson. And just it's working great with them. It's in Cincy too. They just came out of a win against the Colts. And so, he's playing really good ball. I mean, the Vikings defense, I think it's okay, but I think you could be able to make plays against them. And Isaiah, I got to respectfully disagree in terms of your Nick Mullins state. I don't know if he can go into Cincy and put up even 150. I'll be shocked if Nick Mullins goes for if you give me over under in terms of this game. over under 150 yards, I'm hammering the under. So we'll have to see how that goes. And that's why I have the Bengals here. So give me the Bengals here. I'm going to go 24-13.
All right, next up here, we're talking about the Steelers taking on the Colts here on also on Saturday. That's the second one here. I mean, let's just quickly throw out a winner here because I feel like there's more good games to talk about here because I wish it was Anthony Richardson versus Kenny Pickett, but that's not going to be the case. So in Indianapolis, I'm going to go with Minshew Mania and the Colts to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers on a walk-off field goal here. I'll start with you, Isaiah. Who do you like in this matchup?
Yeah, I didn't realize all these games were Saturday, so can't wait. I mean, Saturday night football, replacing college with no college football until January, so that should be fun. But I'm gonna go with the Colts as well. After watching the Steelers last week, I mean, I thought I had it bad watching Josh Johnson in that NFC Championship. Watching Mitchell Trubisky might be the same as that. I mean, that guy could not really throw the football. He was making some really awful plays. He was throwing behind receivers, throwing in front of them by a mile, throwing into triple coverage. Like, how on earth did this kid get drafted number 2 in the draft? Like, it makes no sense whatsoever. As Christy agrees with me, she's picking the Colts. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Colts. Mitchell Trubisky, their offense is the problem. That Steeler defense, I think, will respond because they got flat out embarrassed by Bailey Zappi last week. They're gonna come in, they're gonna respond, but it's in Indy. I don't trust Mitchell Trubisky. Give me the Colts and Gardner Minshew to continue to roll.
What about you, Ben and Steven? Who do you like between the Steelers and Colts?
Give me the Colts. I know I'm kicking with Cruzor and Steven, you weren't there, but Isaiah and I were talking about how fraudulent the Steelers look right now. They just came off of 2 losses against 2 tanking teams, in their place too. Now they will get TJ Watt back, I think, from what I've been listening to and reading. So obviously that's big for them. But who's going to throw the ball? I mean, Kenny Pickett obviously has been banged up. He doesn't look great. Mitch Trubisky, my goodness. I mean, I think that Colts defense makes enough plays. Gardner Minshew, at least to me, guys, has been a fair game manager pretty much this whole entire season. And he's essentially going to be playing the rest of the year for a potential starting job, whether it's with the Colts, as a backup, because they will get Richardson back. But for a team that needs a quarterback, I mean, my Patriots, for example, right? And the Patriots don't want to go out and draft a quarterback. This would be a perfect quarterback, guys, for the Patriots. Lower, if you want to think about it, hear me out on this. The Patriots getting Gardner Minshew as a bridge quarterback for 1 year if they don't have somebody else ready to go for the long term, because he has ability to make plays. I think he does. And I think it's in Indy. I'm going to go Colts here. It's going to be close. Give me 16-13.
And what about you, Steven? Who do you like between the Colts and the Steelers?
I'm going to go with Ben and Isaiah here. I'll go with the Colts to win in this battle. I think that Gardner Minshew has shown that when he can be the game manager and not be put in a situation where he has to win the game for the team, he's been quite capable of doing it. He made some big throws against Big Ben's Patriots. He made some good throws against C.J. Stroud and the Texans recently. There's been some good wins and good back and forth battles where he's performed well. And I think that overall I trust Minshew, who Purdy was compared to when he first got drafted in big moments, more than I trust Mitch. And I think that, I think the Steelers, they are kind of fraudulent. They're kind of like the defensive version of last year's Vikings, where they win a lot of these close games. And you just don't know like what they can do against the top contenders. So, but I do think they're missing Pickett. I think that these games have proven that they're missing something in Pickett's absence. Nonetheless, with all those factors in play, I'll take the Colts to win a defensive battle here. We'll go with 20-16 Colts.
All right, next up, we talk about the Broncos taking a trip up to Detroit to take on the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff versus Russell Wilson.
It's going to be good.
Rematch. I mean, it is a rematch of when they played against each other in the Rams and Seahawks here. Isaiah, I'll go to you here. I'll
This could be
start
good.
with you here.
Oh,
I picked the Detroit Lions to win at home because I think that the Detroit Lions they really need a win after losing to the Denver Broncos. I'm looking forward to that game, honestly. What about you, Isaiah? Who do you like in this game?
This right here is going to be the best game of Saturday night or Saturday football. That's slate on Saturday. Give me the Denver Broncos. There's something about the Broncos where I'm very impressed by them. But here's the thing. It's going to be a walk-off field goal for Denver. These two teams have similar styles. Good defenses. Denver, I think, is better defensively. But both teams like to pound the rock. Denver with Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine. The Lions with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. And then they have two quarterbacks that are just game managers that just get the ball out to the playmakers and let them do their thing. But I trust Denver's defense. Denver is an aggressive defense. They get a lot of turnovers. Ever since they lost 70-20 to the Miami Dolphins, they've led the league in turnovers, which is absolutely remarkable. I think that run continues. I don't trust Jared Goff against aggressive defenses. Every time Jared Goff is against an aggressive defense that stops the run and makes him throw the football, he makes a lot of mistakes and he's turnover prone. So having said that, give me Denver. I think some of those turnovers that Jared Goff will commit will definitely hurt the Detroit Lions, but it's going to be a walk-off field goal. This is going to be the best game of this Saturday slate.
Ben and Steven, who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Lions. I think it'll be close. I think come right down the wire on the final drive. The Lions really know that they need this bounce back and no other way to play at your place where you played really well all year. The last time that I believe that they lost at home, they played at home, they lost on Thanksgiving, but it'll go back and forth. I just think that Detroit right now, to me, they'll find a way. I just think that they will. After that Bears game, I think that's going to be in their head, and they just know that they need this one.
All right. So, anyways, here, guys. What about you, Steven? Who do you like in this one here?
Yeah, I'm liking the I'm liking the Detroit Lions to win here. I think that at least this year they have the better quarterback in Jared Goff versus Russell Wilson. Like Isaiah said, they have kind of two similar styles, both defensively. Pretty solid, and then the run games have been helping them a lot. But I think in this battle, I got to side with the home team. I got to side with the more desperate team here. I think Detroit is desperate to create some separation in the NFC North. And as much as I hope for the sake of my Vikings that the Lions lose, I just think that it's very tough for a team like the Lions to lose back-to-back games or lose string of 2 or 3 games out of 3 or 4 games like that. So I'm going with a better offense here and who I believe this year to be, the better quarterback. I'll go with the Detroit Lions at home. Got to side with the home team that's better offensively.
All right. Next up here, we're going to talk about the Chiefs and Patriots game. But before we get into that, NBC Sports Boston Patriots insider Tom Curran reported that his sources are telling him that the Patriots and Belichick will part ways at the end of the season. And if the Patriots do, in fact, move on from Bill Belichick, who should Robert Kraft target as the next Patriots head coach? For me, it's a toss-up between Jerod Mayo or Mike Vrabel. So Bill Belichick doesn't want to believe in those reports. I don't think Robert Kraft is going to confirm those reports because they don't really leak information about this. So if Bill Belichick moves on or the Patriots part ways with him, then I think I would go with either Jerod Mayo or Mike Vrabel. If I go with Mike Vrabel, I think his experience is going to worth being on the same page as Robert Kraft. But anyways, guys, Isaiah, I'll start with you, Ben. I mean, what were your thoughts on Tom Curran's report? And if Belichick moves on, who is the next head coach of the New England Patriots?
This is a precursor, guys, of the end. And it's been, as a Pats fan myself, I would never have thought my overall fandom being without, two essentially the greatest, um, guys with this team that's been a dynastic 20-year, six Super Bowl run. But when it comes to, when it comes to an end, it comes to an end. And, I think that Bill Belichick, the coach, can still coach, but the GM, I think that the Patriots want to go in a different direction. Now, remember with Brady, at the end with the Patriots, that Kraft was kind of giving it to Brady in terms of his overall, choice, right? 2019. The reason why Brady walked out the door was because the contract. I think specifically if they gave him the contract that he wanted, he still would have stayed. I think that with Belichick, it's going to be more of the direction. This team, this season's been an absolute disaster, and there's nothing else left here in New England to prove in terms of what he's brought. So, they had to bring in some new blood, and it's obviously when they say it's a new era in New England, it's going to be really new era. After the greatest coach to ever coach is going to be out the door, I think by the end of the season. It's going to really hit me hard. I know for a lot of fans, they really want him out. And I know for a fact that, it's going to happen probably more likely than not. But yeah, it's just a precursor, I believe. Curran has a lot of great insight in terms of kind of the stuff. And like Steven mentioned, I mean, I would be stunned if he is still around for next season, especially with the way this season was. And that Colts game, I think, was pretty much that game in Germany pretty much was like his last overall kind of lifeline, I'd say. And it still hasn't been great ever since then. Now, if he wins maybe a couple at the end here, does maybe, Kraft and ownership be like, yeah, we'll have to maybe kind of see, maybe do they strip down his GM duties? They could probably make that happen. But I think what they're going to do is move on and have him kind of go somewhere else where he can go fully all the power.
What about you, Isaiah and Steven? What is your take on this, and who do you think's the next head coach of the New England Patriots?
Yeah, I'm gonna go first before I give it to Steven on this. If this was a national reporter that reported it, I wouldn't really believe it because it's not coming from a guy that's always been in the Patriots building, right? That goes to every press conference, that goes to every practice. So I wouldn't have believed it. But this is a guy who covers the Patriots for NBC Sports Boston, who goes to every Patriots game, goes to every Patriots practice, goes to every Patriots press conference. So he's definitely got some deep sources in the building. So if he's saying this, then that means someone in the building told him that's the case. So I agree with you, Ben, on this, that it's definitely the end. When there's smoke, there's definitely fire, and this is definitely something massive. I'm not really surprised though, because, and Ben and Laurel, here's what. Last year, you guys remember last year when the Patriots finished 8-9, right? When they finished 8-9, they missed the playoffs. Robert Kraft was angry. He sent a letter to all the season ticket holders saying, we are going to make massive changes. I'm very disappointed in this year, and that this is not what the Patriots are all about, right? He said that, and he wrote a letter to the season ticket holders. I thought when he did that, he put Bill Belichick on the hot seat, because I thought that you would do that if you're not fit. And it showed that he was very, very angry. So Belichick's already on the hot seat coming into this season and Kraft is already pissed off after they went 8-9. Imagine how pissed off and disgusted he is if you potentially go 3-14. I mean, Kraft demanded major improvement, and he went over Belichick's head and demanded coaching changes, which he has never really done before because he's let Belichick have all the power. But now you demand major improvements, and then you go 3-14 or 4-13. Like Belichick, it's a no-brainer that he's definitely going to be gone. I just think that after the Robert Kraft letter, that's when Robert Kraft put Belichick on the hot seat and put Belichick on notice, and Belichick has definitely underperformed, some of which is not his fault, but, the drafting has been really poor. The not signing, playmakers when everybody knows that you got to have playmakers to win, not, giving them a lot of money, that definitely didn't help. And I think also one of the biggest criticism of Belichick, Ben and Laurel and Steven, is the stupidest decision of all time to hire Matt Patricia as your OC. A guy that was a career defensive coach becomes your offensive coordinator. Of course, your quarterback is going to not perform. So definitely not surprised by the move. I think that Belichick is definitely going to be out at the end of the season. When I made that prediction that he was going to be gone, I thought it was going to be mid-season because I thought it was going to be so bad. But now that I think about it, even if it's however how bad it gets, it doesn't matter because they're not going to fire him mid-season because he's won 6 Super Bowls and he's done a lot. So I think he's definitely gone at the end of the season. And as far as who should replace him, I think the Patriots need to get away from the Belichick tree. I think they need to get like a young offensive coach that can like modernize the offense. I feel like the offense has been stuck in like the early like the 2010s. What they've been doing, they need to get with what other teams are doing right now with misdirection, with all the stuff that they're doing, the Shanahan offense. So that's why I think, a couple guys that I want the Patriots to hire. Joe Brady, who has definitely done a remarkable job leading that Bills offense after Ken Dorsey got fired.
Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson is another one. He's done a great job with Jared Goff, and he can develop a quarterback, which they're going to need. And then the last one is kind of like a wild one, and that is Mike LaFleur of the LA Rams. Rams have done a pretty remarkable job this season. And LaFleur has been that kind. Like he didn't do well with the Jets, but I don't think it was really his fault. I think it's more of Zach Wilson's fault and how bad he is. So those are my 3 candidates if the Patriots were to move on from Belichick. And the last thing I'll say about Belichick is there just comes a time, fellas, where look, he's had a great run, but there's just comes a time where change is good for everybody. And I think that if you're Belichick, I mean, you did a great job in New England. There's nothing to really be sad about. And maybe you can go coach like the New York Giants or someone else and I think he might coach the Giants because he has a lot of career ties to. So, maybe you can go to another team and, maybe you can try to do what Brady did and try to win it with that team. Yeah.
And what about you? What about you, Steven? Who do you like as the new head coach of the New England Patriots? And what were your thoughts on Tom Curran's report?
I think for a new head coach of the New England Patriots, there are a couple of guys in college you can look at. I believe, Ryan Day and Jim Harbaugh would be some good candidates. Obviously, with Day's in the thick of losing a lot of Ohio State potential students and athletes to the transfer portal. And per the current reports, there just hasn't seemed to have been a very good execution in terms of replacing them. You wonder, 12 transfers leaving in less than 24 hours and not being able to replace them so far. Like, is this kind of like the calling card? Is this kind of the swan song of Day, the beginning of the end of his days at Ohio State? Maybe it's not this year. Heck, maybe it's not next year, but it's coming sometime soon. And, some might ask, why not this year? You've kind of reached a ceiling where, like, even if you do beat Michigan, how frequently can Ohio State continue to just dominate its opponents with expansion of both the Big Ten and the playoffs coming? So I think Ryan Day is an interesting choice. I think if Harbaugh comes out and wins the title, or even comes close to that, that could be a really good option, because you look at Michigan and the sanctions that are potentially coming. You just wonder, if they don't win it now, or even if they do win it now, when will they ever, be able to win it or win it again? Like, it seems like he's also reached a ceiling with the Michigan Wolverines. So, and the other thing is, both of these guys, they have ties to the NFL. They both have, some of the more innovative schemes in football. And and they're both very good at building rosters up quickly. So even though they won't have that talent advantage to operate with, I think like they just seem like very natural candidates for replacing Bill Belichick and particularly Harbaugh, some of kind of the same tough coaching philosophies a little bit with Belichick. And then maybe Mike Vrabel if the Titans weren't satisfied with him, although, former Patriots tight end and player did really well with Belichick, with Brady at the time. He understands the New England culture, the fans, the system, all of that. He could be a good candidate. So I think there's a lot of good ahead for New England, Ben. And one thing I know about Boston sports is they bounce back quickly. I mean, you look at the Celtics right after they lost KG and Pierce. Within a few years, they were running as one of the East top contenders. And you look at the Red Sox, they're in and out, but they always find a way to bounce back. But the last thing I'll say on this was what I said before about Belichick. I truly believe that if this is the final year of Belichick coaching the Patriots, which we seem to have established, I think that he will take that break from coaching for a while. I don't think he's going to just ride into the very next opportunity. I think, coaching, it's a full-time job. It's very, very stressful and there's a lot of demands required. And I think he realizes that to an extent, he's reached a ceiling and a little bit of a obsolescence on his career too.
Anyways, guys, with that being said, we'll go with our game picks here. I'm going to go with the Chiefs in this one just because New England has a really rough schedule in the last 4 games. I mean, I just feel like they'll lose out the rest of the games just so that we are going to keep our high if they have a high draft pick. I mean, it could be 3, it could be 2. So New England is probably going to get their season down the drain because they're going to be running into teams like Kansas City, Denver, the Bills, and, of course, to finish the year, the New York Jets. But I think they'll lose to the Bills, but maybe I could see them beating the New York Jets. Ben, who do you like?
Yeah, there's actually a good chance my dad's going to be going to this game. So we'll have to see how that goes. So in terms of the Chiefs right now, they don't look like the unstoppable Chiefs they once were. They have a lot of issues going on. I think that this game, guys, is going to be a lot closer, and I think a lot of people out there think it's going to be. I would not be shocked if the Patriots put up a good fight. The way that the offense played last week in that first half, they played a pretty good Pittsburgh's defense. And outside of Rashee Rice, I mean, the offense of the Chiefs is very inept. Yes, they didn't have Pacheco last week. Kelsey, obviously. Bill Belichick does a very good job stopping typically your best guy on the side. Essentially, if they take away and bracket Travis Kelsey, Bill Belichick's going to look at it and essentially make a chess match of a game where he's going to keep it close. And I think that's the way you're going to have to beat this Chiefs team, especially because it's in New England. If it was in Kansas City, of course, I would go with the Chiefs, potentially in a blowout. I would not be shocked. But it's in Foxborough. The elements, I don't think, are going to be playing a factor. Yes, you're going to have an angry Mahomes coming into Foxborough after the last 2 games, which I think that's the reason why we're not going to win. But I think we're going to keep it close. I think they're going to pull it out. I think it's going to be 27-20. I think it's going to be that score. I think that we're going to be down by 2 scores. We get a score late at the end. We try to get the onside kick, and we come up short. But we put up a good fight. And, I think that the Chiefs are just going to be too much at the end. But I think it's going to be close.
All right. Isaiah and Steven, who do you like between the Chiefs and the Patriots?
Fellas, Zappy Fever will continue on Sunday, and this will be the biggest upset this season in the NFL. Give me Bailey Zappi. Steven, turn on your camera. Give me Bailey Zappi and the New England Patriots to upset Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. This is setting up for the Patriots to win. Like you mentioned, Ben, Bill Belichick does a great job against Kansas City, and this is not the Kansas City of old. This is a Kansas City that is very, very limited. Mahomes doesn't have any trust in his receivers. He's getting so pissed off at all of his receivers. He's throwing his helmet on the sidelines. He's throwing temper tantrums, which is something we never, ever, ever see from Patrick Mahomes because he's a very quiet, low-key type of guy. I just read a report. Isaiah Pacheco did not practice today. There's a high chance that he's not going to play. So if he doesn't play, you don't have a run game because you're going to be relying on Edwards-Helaire. He didn't really do much. Jerick McKinnon is a change of pace back. He hasn't really done much. So what you're going to do if you're the Patriots, double Travis Kelce, triple team him, put all your attention on him, force Mahomes to throw it to Valdez-Scantling, Rashid Rice, any one of these receivers, and see them beat you. If they beat you, great. But I don't think that they'll be able to beat the New England Patriots. And I think this is going to be a close game. Like you mentioned, Ben, the Patriots are going to be in it with the Chiefs from the beginning. And I think it's going to be a close defensive battle. Chiefs defense has played very good. But give me Bailey Zappi to lead the Patriots down the field for a game-winning field goal in a tie game late and give New England an absolute stunning win over Kansas City. I agree with you, Ben. If this was in Foxborough, if this was in Kansas City, blowout. No chance whatsoever, especially with the crowd and everything. But this is in Foxborough. And Mahomes has typically not played well in Foxborough, and he doesn't have the weapons now that he once had. He doesn't have that breakaway player. So give me Patriots. I think the Patriots, especially with this report, I think it helps because you guys know that when Bill Belichick gets pissed, he wants to, it gets the best out of him. And I think Belichick, reading the report, he wants to stick it to Kraft. And this is what Tom Curran also mentioned in his video the other day. He hopes that, or I don't think it was Tom Curran, I think it was Pat McAfee that mentioned this. Wouldn't it sound like a Belichick thing to do for Bill Belichick to see this report knowing that, okay, Robert Kraft's going to fire me at the end of the season. What if I just spite the Patriots and pull Lovie Smith and take away their draft pick? I have a feeling because Bill Belichick is vengeful that he could do something like that.
Another thing too, Isaiah, what was I going to mention? I was going to mention something. I'll get back to it if I remember.
Anyways, guys, Steven, who do you like in the Patriots and Chiefs game?
Well, if it was already, an anomaly to see Mahomes and the Chiefs lose 2 games in a row, I don't believe we will be seeing.
Go ahead, Steven.
I said I don't believe we're going to be seeing Mahomes and the Chiefs lose 3 games in a row. So I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs here. I think, they've always said, man, you should always count on a team to bounce back after a crushing defeat. And now we've got 2 of them in a row against the Packers and the Bills with Mahomes and the Chiefs. I don't think they get to 3 in a row. I think they've got the better roster here. They've got a better offense, the better quarterback. I think better quarterback edge matters a lot in today's league. And, it's going to be a close game. It's right now the Chiefs are a 9.5-point favorite. It's in Foxborough, so I wouldn't be surprised to see New England be able to cover that spread. I think New England fights tough and they keep it close, but give me the Kansas City Chiefs to kind of pull away here and be able to win this game 27-17 after a hot back and forth start for Zappi in the first half. I just think that the Patriots, they will be motivated. They will be motivated to kind of defend their coach's legacy and let Belichick ride off into the sunset. I just don't think it's going to be this game. And I think in this game, you have a very, very motivated, hot-headed Mahomes team that is just determined to not lose 3 games in a row. And they determinedly have the better roster.
Anyways, guys, the next game that all 3 of us will be picking when the Cowboys take on the Bills here. Isaiah, I'm going to ask you here. I don't think anybody wants to talk about the Cardinals and Niners game just because there's going to be a doozy win for the 49ers here, and Brad Purdy's going to throw all over this Arizona defense here. Tell me the score in this one.
I'm going to go Niners. I'm going to go Niners 42 to 13. I think Arizona starts off decent. Murray has had success against the Niners. Niners have struggled in the past against rushing quarterbacks, but that Arizona defense is not good. I mean, they have not been good all season long. And Kyle Shanahan wants revenge on Jonathan Gannon after Jonathan Gannon talked a lot of trash going into that NFC Championship game. So he has revenge on his mind. So give me 42 to 13 Niners.
Next game, guys, we're going to talk about the Cowboys taking on the Buffalo Bills here. I mean, this is America's game of the week. I mean, the Cowboys are playing really good football, and the Bills are coming off their best win yet. I'm going to pick the Buffalo Bills in this game just because I think that they're going to continue where they left off. As for Dallas, I mean, they're in for a test here. They're going to be playing in the frigid cold of Buffalo. But the run game could be a factor in this game, but we'll see what play designs that Mike McCarthy designs on offense here, Isaiah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. This is going to be a great game. I can't wait to watch it. Too bad I'm going to be at work, so I can't watch it fully. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be. I can't wait for this game. Who am I going to pick? Give me the, Cowboys. They lead the NFC East, but if they lose a game, the Eagles get it back. Bills fighting for the playoff spots. So this is going to be a really, really heated game. Give me the Cowboys. I think they go into Buffalo and beat the Bills. The Bills' offenses look great with Joe Brady calling the plays. Dak Prescott on the offense has looked really good this entire season running the football. You're right. The run game is going to be a huge factor in this game with Tony Pollard, and he's one of the better running backs in the NFL. But I think it's going to be like what the Cowboys and Eagles were the first time. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Give me the Cowboys to win it late. I'm going to go 37-34. And before I throw it to Ben or Steven on this, I actually saw this tweet. Patrick Mahomes, fellas, just like this tweet of a fan tweeting that the Denver Broncos broke Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes liked that tweet. I mean, it's absolutely crazy how things are unraveling.
Let me take a look right now.
Go ahead, Steven or Ben.
This game, Dallas and Buffalo. Man. Give me the Bills. Dallas obviously is on a great streak, but remember, guys, Dallas on the road in elements. Cold elements with them. I need to see it. And until then, I'm going to pick the team on the other side. You look at Dallas going to Philly, right? Dallas going to get the job done when it mattered most. They're going to go to Buffalo. It's going to be probably a hostile environment there too. And so I just really like, it's going to be really high scoring. I don't think there's going to be a lot of defense. And I think the Bills are going to make if it was obviously on the other side, I'll probably go Dallas, but it's going to be like a 31-28 type of game. Buffalo's offense is really playing well. Ever since Joe Brady came in, he's embraced that running back as a weapon. And so I think that's going to really help them for sure. Dak's playing like an MVP too, but I think it's going to come down right to the wire. And I think it's going to come down to the last possession, but I think that Buffalo comes out on top. So, Isaiah, you obviously put in the chat next kicking with Cruz before I head out, guys. Probably, if not tomorrow, probably by the weekend. It's obviously Yamamoto watch, and we'll talk a lot more about the Ohtani and a lot of the other stuff. Baseball pretty much, primarily, and obviously a lot of football stuff as well. So thanks, guys, for having me.
All right. Next up here, Isaiah, you picked the Bills and Cowboys game. Steven, who do you like in this game?
Steven, do we have you?
Yeah, sorry. I'm back, guys. So I'll go with the Bills here. I think ordinarily I like to pick the team that's not coming off of the emotional win, which would be the Bills right now. But I think that the Bills gained some swagger, 6-6, you lose that game, you go to 6-7. And they did everything they could, except for maybe towards the end of that game where it looks like Kansas City was about to rip their heart out once again, but they did everything they could to win that game. They executed to perfection, I thought, for most of the game. And they really controlled the narrative throughout the Kansas City game. Season on the line, they made a big response. It just seems like this is a Bills team that has gained a lot of swagger. coming into this game. And so, even though the Cowboys have been riding hot, I think that they've needed to kind of prove it against good opponents, which they did against the Eagles. But as we've seen with the Eagles, it's tough to keep playing good opponents over and over and over again, And so I got to go with the Bills in this game, especially at home. The environment is going to play a factor. The weather may or may not play a factor. So give me the Bills to win this game. Let's call it another really close, heart-throbbing win, 27-24, because that's how they do it in Buffalo.
All right, next up, guys, we're going to go to Sunday Night Football here between the Ravens and Jags. I'll tell you, I mean, the Jags, I think we're going to see Trevor Lawrence in this game. I mean, the Ravens are playing pretty good, but I'm going to go with the Jags at home just because I feel like that they're going to play like they're pissed off from losing to the Bengals and Browns. Isaiah, you going with Duval?
Ooh, I want to go with Duval. I really do, but if I'm the Jags, if I'm advising the Jags, I would not play Trevor Lawrence just because you don't want to injure him again, make that injury worse, especially with a defense that is known for getting after quarterbacks. And plus, the final games you have is an easy schedule. I mean, you play the Panthers. You play the Bucks, then you play the Panthers, and then after that, you play to end the season. The Jacksonville Jaguars play the Tennessee Titans. So they have a very easy schedule. You can afford to lose this game and then win the last three, and you win the division. So, I don't think they're going to play Trevor Lawrence. I think they'll play C.J. Beathard. Give me the Ravens. I think the Ravens win that game. I think they want to protect Lawrence. Ravens are going to be all over the Jags without Trevor Lawrence. I think that C.J. Beathard, he'll do all right, but against that Ravens defense known for getting turnovers and getting sacks, Lamar Jackson, I think he'll find his mojo against the Jags defense, but that defense is ferocious, and they're going to get after C.J. Beathard and basically use him as a tackling dummy. So give me the Ravens to win this game.
What about you, Steven? Who do you like in this one?
I'll go with the Jags to win this game. I think, like Isaiah said, it is a danger to play Trevor Lawrence, but this guy's a warrior. He's been in so many clutch moments. He's fought through so many different ailments and injuries, and we've seen his moxie all the way from his time at Clemson to now his time in the NFL. Like, how many times as an underdog late in the game does he just bring you back? From the Herbert comeback last season to what he did against Dak and the Cowboys to what he did against the Bills in his rookie year. This guy's just got the it factor to him, and I think that he continues it. In Jacksonville, I just think that with the Ravens, they are one of the most dominant teams, and they are certainly one of the top three teams in the NFL. But this just seems to be the type of game that the Ravens lose. To put it into those terms of the coaches and the commentators, they seem to always have a couple of those games every year where you just let one get away. And I think this is going to be another one of those types of games, like the one they had against the Steelers, where they might start hot, where they might be on par with the Jags for most of the game. But, one way, some way, Trevor Lawrence finds a way to will his team into victory. They're slumping a little bit, but the Jags and Trevor Lawrence, they always seem to find a way. I'm going Duval here, Loro.
Anyways, guys, we're going to go to Monday Night Football here. Before we get our pick here, the questions for both of you here. Should the Seahawks start Drew Lock versus the Eagles on Monday night, or do they go with Geno Smith? I mean, I feel like you got to go with Drew Lock. I mean, I think it's time to be a starting quarterback in the league. I feel like Seattle's the best choice for him. I mean, Geno Smith is good, but I want to go Drew Lock. I want to see what the Seahawks can do to unleash that man's potential, because he's got a cannon of an arm, but just can be turnover savvy, Isaiah. And my pick for this game, I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles in a must in this game here.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Seahawks should go with Drew Lock because with Geno, even with a healthy Geno, I mean, Geno wasn't really scaring anyone. That's why I texted in our group chat on Sunday when it was announced that Drew Lock was going to be the starter. Drew Lock scares me more than Geno Smith. Geno Smith doesn't really scare me because he throws a lot of short passes, medium passes, and the Niners feast off of that. And the Eagles do the same. You know, like Brock Purdy showed against the Eagles, you need to have a guy that can shred this defense throwing the football. And Drew Lock's got a cannon of an arm. Yeah, he made like a couple really dumb decisions late, but that's always been the thing with Drew Lock. He has a great arm. He'll make a lot of like wow plays, and then he'll make a lot of plays that are like, are you kidding me, Drew? Like I can throw better than you. So I think Drew Lock should start. You know what you have with Geno. Geno's like Alex Smith with the Niners. He's like an okay quarterback, but he's not going to win you the big game. Drew Lock has a lot of potential, and I think that, you know, he elevates the Seahawks more. So I think Drew Lock should be the starter, especially with Geno being hurt. I mean, first off, fellas, Geno Smith got hurt because he tripped over a teammate and hurt his groin. I mean, that is like, you don't want to laugh at injuries, but that is just a really
Sorry. You're right, Isaiah.
No. Like I was laughing too when I saw it. Like that's how funny that injury was. But yeah, they got to go with Drew Lock. I mean, I think Drew Lock scares teams more than Geno on the Seahawks because he can throw the ball downfield, get the ball to Jackson Smith and Jigba and DK Metcalf. Well, Geno, it's like he relies on those short passes and the running game. So yeah, Seahawks should definitely go with Drew Lock. As far as who's going to win the game, give me the Seahawks, Steven and Laurel. Call me delusional, but give me the Seahawks. I think that and this is a wow show because I never pick against Seattle. I never pick against the Vikings. And on this show, I picked both teams to win. So it's crazy. But if they go with Drew Lock, I think the Seahawks are going to win because that Eagles defense is terrible in the secondary. Their linebackers are terrible. If their defensive line can't get after the quarterback, they can't do anything to stop the opposing team's offense. That's why in fantasy football, I am going to start DK Metcalf. And I might even start Drew Lock against Steven and beat him with another backup quarterback because that Eagles defense sucks against if their defensive line can't get after the quarterback. Jalen Hurts is good, but here's the problem with Jalen Hurts. If you just put a spy in the middle of the field to stop him from running and your secondary clamps down, then Jalen Hurts has shown that he's not really that good of a passer. And going into Seattle, loud play, Seahawks need to win that game. They're desperate. With Drew Lock at the helm, give me Seattle to win this game over Philadelphia. And I think that Jalen Hurts, with that loud noise in Seattle, and I was there in the preseason and it was so loud, but in that environment, I think it might be raining as well. That's going to benefit the Seahawks. So give me Drew Lock in Seattle. Can't believe I'm going to say that.
What about you, Steven? Who do you like in this one?
So I'm going to go with the Eagles here. I think, like I said, with the Kansas City Chiefs, they're a good, disciplined football team. And, in a desperation circumstance, I just don't see them losing so many games in a row, back to back to back. And this is really like put up or shut up time for an Eagles team that struggled a little bit down the stretch. But before I go on more about this prediction, I do want to say, for all the criticism about the Eagles and the stretch that they've endured, you got to remember this is the National Football League. It's hard to beat any team, let alone playoff teams, back to back to back to back. They've had to play the Cowboys twice. They've had to play Seattle before Seattle kind of got into their slump. They've had to play the Niners, the Buffalo Bills, and, like I said, the Cowboys twice earlier. They've had to play good teams during the stretch. When you play so many good teams in a row, and the Niners know this better than anyone, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in college know this better than anyone, it's hard winning week to week. It's hard enough beating teams like the Commanders, the Bears, the mid-tier teams like the Vikings and the Steelers from week to week, let alone the top tier of the NFL. And I think that this is just the case for the Eagles, where this is going to be a get-it-right game. They're playing a team that, frankly, at this point in the season, they're not really up to par in terms of like being one of the top contenders anymore. And that's why I got the Eagles, despite their struggles, despite the overhype about his struggles, of what I was talking about earlier. I got the Eagles winning this game, and I got them winning it pretty comfortably. I would say give me the Eagles. If Geno plays 34-20, if Locke plays, I'll say 34-17. I think they ride all over with DeAndre Swift and Jalen Hurts in that run and passing game. But I will say this, Loro and Isaiah. I think right now is not the time to start Drew Lock. And here's why. You ask any coach, you ask any top player in the NFL, what do they always say? We just want to play the guys who give us the best chance to win the game. Now, against the Niners, because of factors like lack of film, because of their history against Geno specifically, I thought Drew Lock at that condition and that circumstance was the better start against the Niners. But you got to remember, Geno, he's played well against NFC East opponents. He did light up the Cowboys. Granted, they weren't able to win that game. He put up really fantastic numbers against them. And I think against this Eagles team, they have some bigger weaknesses than the Cowboys on defense. And it's really going to be exploitable by the Seahawks, even though I'm picking a motivated Eagles to win this game. I just think that in this type of a matchup, Geno's about 3 to 4 points better than Drew Lock, if I'm being honest. And I think that you got to give the guy who gives you the best chance to win the game, you got to let that guy start first and then worry about things later. And I would say this. This is the last thing I'll say, guys. Like, if Geno Smith loses this game, and now you're sitting at 6-8, if that happens, sure, go ahead and play Drew Lock for the rest of the season. But right now, while you're still in the chase, while your goals are still ahead of you, I do believe that Geno Smith right now gives you the best chance to win right now over Drew Lock.
All right. So, anyways, who do you pick in this win?
I'm picking Eagles 34-20 with Geno on the field, and if it's Lock, I'll say 34-17.
Anyways, guys, we will save the Christmas nears about one thing you want Santa to deliver for your team for Christmas. We will save that for the Christmas special. So, anyways, here's some final thoughts and announcements. The Christmas special will be next Friday. We don't know what time yet. Isaiah will announce that very, very soon. Steven and Isaiah, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, it was a great show. Want to thank Ben for jumping on. I know it was late where he is, so glad that we could have had him for about an hour and a half. So that was fun. And thanks to Ben for commenting. I know he said he has Philly beating the Seahawks. He has the Ravens beating the Jags. And then him saying it's opposite day for Isaiah. It is. I don't know why. What has gone into me for me to pick the Vikings and the Seahawks in the same show makes no sense. But yeah, thanks to Ben for tuning in. Thanks to Christy for tuning in. She picked the codes. And even thanks to Trevor Lay. Shout out to him. He showed up and tuned in tonight, so appreciate it. My final thoughts is it was a great show. Looking forward to the whole weekend of football starting tomorrow. I mean, all the quarterbacks that I've loved is dominating right now, so it's definitely crazy to see. But tune in, guys, next week, because next week on Extra Point, I am going to have a special trophy that I'm going to be raising up after I demolish Steven in fantasy football and head to our fantasy football final. It is over. I've had this date circled for the past year after he beat me last year. It's going down, and Steven, just a warning shot at you. You better believe it's going to happen because you're not going to have Justin Jefferson or any of your star players.
Justin
Brock
Jefferson's
Purdy
playing
versus
this
Arizona is an easy 30 points. So I'm healthy. You're not. Revenge is coming, just like the Niners slaughter the Eagles in Philadelphia, and that trophy is coming back to my case.
And guess what, Isaiah? Neither of them are championship games. So you want to say that, fine. I don't think it's happening. We'll see what happens. But anyway, my final thoughts, guys. Great show. Glad I got to come in and show off my Timberwolves gear for a second. Relate to Ben as a fellow KG fan. I would say, New England, Boston fans, hang your heads high. This is a town, this is a city that never stays down for too much. And they embody the American spirit of, independence, perseverance, and great teamwork. So I think better days are ahead for New England. I think it's just time to move on from Belichick. He's entered kind of his little Mike Zimmer era where he's grown into obsolescence. And it's an unfortunate thing that happens to a lot of coaches and players in this game. The game hits you fast, as they say. But final thoughts is really great slate of games. I can't wait for Saturday. Let's see how Nick Mullins does. The guy who, for my wedding gift, the MI6 crew bought a cameo of him for me, and he did a very beautiful job. And a guy that for a long time, both me and Isaiah, we wanted him to succeed in this league. We think he has the physical tools. He has a little bit of the Kirk Cousins, Brock Purdy elements to him. Let's see if he can piece it together with this very competent coaching staff in Minnesota. And lastly, man, how great of a job is Brian Flores doing defensively in Minnesota? If they are able to, hang on to that 6th seed, or better yet, continue to win games and move up, I believe that not Kevin O'Connell. I believe that Brian Flores deserves some serious, and I mean serious, consideration for Coach of the Year. That's going to be my final thoughts.
Anyways, guys, that's going to do it. We'll see you next Friday.
Peace.
Third and 29. Jones steps up, tries to avoid it, buys some time. Jones uncorks, deep ball, touchdown on the ricochet. Purdy back to throw, pressure coming, steps away, looking to run, and he walks it in for the touchdown. Throw on 4th and 18. He's given time. He wants Jefferson. Jacobs with running room right up the middle. Jacobs is on his way. The Raiders are going to win this game. Herbert lays it up. Intercepted Trayvon Diggs. Guess who? To McCaffrey right up the middle, and it's stiff arm McCaffrey for 6.